right. Welcome to the show, everyone. This is the first show that I am doing. My name is Jeff D. I am the host of Downfield Read. And basically what it is, it's all NFL talking points. It's all NFL news, whether it's fantasy football, up-to-date news, roster trends, coaches, coaching changes, all that kind of stuff. But we're just not the talking heads that you hear otherwise with Nick Wright and Dan Orlovsky and all these other guys, Colin Cowherd, whoever you might follow out there. So today I've got two very special guests, and hopefully this works out and we have some fun with this. This is just going to be off the cuff a little bit, but we've got two guys that I just recently started to talk to a few minutes ago before we started the show, and we all met via something called Fantasy Turf Wars, which if you haven't heard of it, go to it, fantasyturfwars.com. It is a really so far cool experience. 64 teams in a league, and there are 4 divisions of 16. And with me is Dan Brown Jr. and Ryan Gilly. And I'm going to throw the floor out to Ryan, first of all, whose nickname is Gilly, and he can tell you a little bit about what he's got going on. And then we'll head over to Dan.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate that, man. Ryan, Gil Martin, real name. I go nickname's Gilly, just because of the last name, Gil, but I got a little podcast that I'm doing right now. It's called Saturdays in the Swamp, about Florida Gator football specifically. We touched a little bit in depth on the rest of the CFP and what that looks like going on, especially with the expansion this year, conference realignment, things like that. A lot of exciting things going on in college football. So I'll be diving into that week by week, preview and review of the weeks that the previous week and the week coming up. So tune into that. Spotify, I think all platforms, but yeah, tap in Saturdays in the Swamp.
Sounds good, Gilly. How are you feeling about Florida this year?
They got some work to do. They got the toughest schedule in the country, and third-year head coach who's most would say on the hot seat. So it should be interesting. A lot of returning pieces that are important, and then a lot of young guys that have the chance to kind of step up and make a name for themselves. So I'm biased. I think they're going to be better than what Vegas puts them at. Vegas has them at 4.5 win total. I think that's a little crazy, but who knows?
Well, good deal. Everyone, tune in to Gilly when he's presenting his Florida Gator information to you. And then we've got, and just on an NFL note, he's a Philadelphia Eagles, just so we all are on the same page here. Obviously, you guys know my team in the back here is the Baltimore Ravens, Philadelphia Eagles. I got no beef with you guys, so I think we'll get along. And then let's head up to Dan Brown. How are you doing today, Dan?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. What's going on?
Hey, football as usual. It's that time of year.
You got that right. It's exciting, So, yeah, I mean, I don't have, a YouTube channel or anything like that. I'm just here to talk ball, So let's have a good time, talk ball, maybe a little fantasy. We'll just see where it goes.
Absolutely. And Dan is from Chicago. And that's been a hot topic ever since the draft. Caleb Williams, obviously, in Chicago. People either love him or they don't love him. We'll get into Caleb Williams in a little bit, though. I don't want to get too much into that right now. But Chicago has been kind of a big thing. Tell us something about the Bears that maybe we don't otherwise know from watching so far in the preseason.
I think a lot of people are sleeping on the defense. A lot of people have just focused on Caleb Williams and the addition of Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze and DeAndre Swift and Gerald Everett and all the weapons on offense, that they kind of forget how good the defense was the back half of last year once they got sweat. Keep in mind, last year the secondary was hurt pretty much all year.
Yeah.
So they're actually coming into this season 100% healthy. Brisker just got back to practice. Kyler Gordon didn't practice pretty much all summer, came back in the preseason Saturday and was all over the field. So Caleb has time to figure it out early while the defense kind of holds it down for him in the meantime. Plus, if you look at the first 9 weeks of their schedule, I'm not going to say easy because it's the NFL, but if there's, a schedule to make some hay early, is that one while he's, going through some growing pains.
Yeah. And I could definitely appreciate the Bears defense. I want to thank your Chicago Bears for allowing us to have Roquan Smith. And we recently, as the Ravens, just picked up Eddie Jackson in the
Yep.
backfield for some extra safety depth. So
You can have fun with him.
thank you very much. So I tell you what, let's just get right on into it. Like I mentioned before, we're all part of this thing called Fantasy Turf Wars, and there's 4 divisions of 16 teams. It's really amazing. Go ahead and check out all the details and stuff. Turns out that the 4 of us are all in separate divisions, so we can all sit here and we can talk crap about it, about our own divisions, and talk about draft strategies and all that kind of stuff. So I'm in Division 4. Dan, you're in which division?
I'm in Division 2.
Have you looked at your competition to see who you're kind of going up against? And...
A little bit. I'm trying not to do it. I don't want to overanalyze because that's what I always do. But then I get away from what I actually want to do.
Yeah.
Instead of just, watching their, their video testimonial, so to speak, and understand what, where they might be leaning in their experience. I'm just going to draft the players I want, and, we're going to see what happens.
Yeah. See where the ball drops. How about you, Gilly? You take a look?
Yeah, I'm Division 3. I have not. I mean, I've seen the names. Haven't really done too much in-depth research. Kind of like Dan. I got my own strategies and processes that I like to use to draft, especially for fantasy. So I'm not too worried about people around me.
Good deal. All right, let's get into some real football. And I think the biggest thing for me anyway, I've got a fantasy football league outside of this where I'm in a dynasty league, and I've named my team after someone who's causing some waves right now. CeeDee's Nuts is my team name. And if you followed anything in the NFL, you know that CeeDee Lamb is apparently holding out. He was offered a contract. It was somewhere around $33 million a year. Jerry Jones has recently said that he's optimistic about CeeDee Lamb coming back. But what do you guys think? Isn't it a little late in the preseason here to start ruffling feathers? Is this a real threat, or do you think CeeDee Lamb may not be on the Cowboys this year?
I think he's going to play regardless. I mean, according to Albert Breer, earlier today on the McAfee show, he said things aren't that far apart, and there's no reason why something shouldn't get done. For a guy that wants all that money, I don't take him for one that's going to sacrifice all the money when dragging it through the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. You had the same situation last year with Zach Martin going into the preseason. Showed up pretty late to Oxnard, but he got his deal, he got his money. So CeeDee coming off of a huge season, set a lot of records for the Cowboys. He's going to get what he thinks he's worth. But to Dan's point, he's going to play a lot of smoke, right? You want your money, so you're going to do what you play the cards to do it, like to make you maybe think that I'm not going to play, but you got to play it right, and that's how you get paid.
Do you think that CeeDee is looking at what Jerry Jones is doing with Dak Prescott, not giving him any kind of a big term contract right now, and he's saying, hey, you know what, just give it to me now because I don't want to have to go through this fiasco. I just gave you a great year, like you said, Gilly. Now, give me the bag.
It's definitely got to be in the back of his mind, right? If they're not going to re-sign the quarterback that he just had a career year with, that he's played his whole career with in the NFL, it makes you, start to think about, okay, what's my future look like? But Dallas has always been weird, at least lately, with paying their guys and when and how they do it. It always ends up getting done typically. So, I don't know. It's a lot of smoke. I feel like in Dallas, there's a lot of money to be had, and so I think these guys know that, and that's why they kind of act the way they do. And you have to also think about their agents, right? Their agents are professionals at what they do. They understand the market. They understand what they're doing. They understand who they're dealing with. So, I don't know. I think once again, there's just so much money. You deal with Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. It's the most profitable franchise in the world. So it's just doing everything you can to get that last penny out of them.
Yeah. What are they like? They were just valued at $10 billion or something absurd like that.
Something ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty stupid. And you gotta figure he's trying to get his money before. Do they pay Dak? Do they pay Parsons?
Yeah.
There's only so much. I know they got all the money in the world.
Do you think it's something that's joint between Dak and CeeDee Lamb? Do you think Dak made CeeDee? Do you think CeeDee made Dak? Because if you're looking at just statistics alone, you can look at QBR and passer rating and completion and total passing yards and all that kind of stuff. And Dak is he's got to be considered a top 3 quarterback if you're just looking at it statistically. Forget about what he does in the playoffs. We already know that he's, kind of that mean dragon in the preseason and a wimpy guy in the postseason. But do you think one makes the other, or do you think it's just a good fit?
I think CD is just a stud, and I think the Cowboys' offensive line over the past decade has made Dak Prescott a really good quarterback. Dak was doing well before CD got there. So it's not like CD all of a sudden made him a top 10 quarterback. He's been doing it when he's been healthy, right?
Agreed.
And he's always had a really good running game and a really good offensive line. So when you can go play action or just stand up in the pocket with getting zero pressure or being just mobile enough to get out of the pocket, it makes it easier. But at the same time, he's the one, throwing the ball and making it happen. So, he's always had good tight ends. He's always had a number 1 wide receiver, and he's always had a great running game to help him out. So I say it's exclusive of each other, really.
Dan said it really well right there. He's always had a run game. He's always had an offensive line. He's always had a number receiver. And so CD is a freak in himself. I don't think by any means does Dak make CD. I think CD is one of the top receivers in the league, depending where you want to rank him. He has the ability to get open like nobody else. And then once he's in open space, he's a really tough guy to get down. And that makes you one of the best receivers in the league. So, yeah, I think it's a great combination. You can't complain about it if you're a Cowboys fan by any means other than the playoff time.
And just to clarify, even though you got a Dallas Cowboys helmet hanging up in the background, you are not a Cowboys fan.
Not a Cowboys fan. I worked for the Dallas Cowboys this past season, so that's kind of how I got that helmet. But, yeah, that it's kind of misleading, I guess, right? I'm an Eagles fan with a Cowboys helmet hanging up in the background.
Yeah, you're not seeing nothing Green Bay over here, I promise you.
Yeah, I believe you on that.
Go where the money is, right? Well, as you said before, CeeDee Lamb, number 1 in receiving yards, number 1 in receiving, number 2 in receiving yards, number 3 in touchdowns, number 1 in yards after the catch. So absolutely stud of a wide receiver this year. Just for fun, because we had this whole Brandon Ayuk thing going on, and we had the Cleveland Browns in there. We had the New England Patriots throwing their hat in. We had the Steelers. Is that still going to be a thing or not? Let's just say for fun, they decide to trade CeeDee Lamb. Where do you think? Do you think it's just the usual suspects, the 3 teams that I mentioned before, or do you think there might be a dark horse in there somewhere that picks up CeeDee Lamb? Gives him the contract that he wants.
I think a lot more teams would be on CD than Ayuk and more willing to pay CD than Ayuk.
Agreed.
CD's proven he can do it when he's the only guy, the only show in town. Ayuk, can he be a 1? Is he really good 2? Does he need Chris McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Debo to allow him to get one-on-one all day? We know CD can do it. So I think there's more avenues that can go if CD was on the market. A lot more phone calls. Buffalo, I'm sure Josh Allen wouldn't mind having CeeDee Lamb.
All right. That'd be a good one.
Kansas City, sure, Hollywood. He hasn't done anything in 7-8 years since his first couple years in Baltimore before he always got hurt. And, when everybody was just worried about Lamar running, so they left him wide open, right? And then they still got, the rookie and Xavier Worthy, and who knows with that. Rashi probably gets suspended next year, but they don't have, an all-encompassing wide receiver. Kelsey's, getting old. So, I think a lot of teams would try and get in on CD.
Yeah, I was going to say this before. I think CD, he's poised to have just as good a season as he did the year before. Nothing's changed, right? So he's going to get probably more touches than he did the year before, especially if he gets paid. So, yeah, I think any team would be called, picking up the phone and make a phone call to go after him.
I can see San Francisco trading Ayuk just to trade for CD and pay him instead.
Yeah,
that'd be a fun thing to see.
You made a good point. He has Debo, McCaffrey, Kittle. You're talking about not even is he a 1, is he a 2, is he a 4, is he a 5? The best option in that offense. So a lot of talent there.
Put him on Pittsburgh, fine.
Fair enough. You know what? As long as both Ayuk and CeeDee Lamb can just stay in the NFC, I think I'll be happy with that. Just stay over there. We've got enough Pro Bowlers. Too many good people on the AFC side. So sticking with Dallas, though, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, and it got more play and more attention than I thought it was going to get, because I think it's kind of funny. How about Brandon Aubrey and his 66-yard field goal that he made by a few yards? And if you're aware of who the NFL record holder is, it's Justin Tucker, who had to hit the bottom crossbar in order to get that in the end of regulation against the Detroit Lions a few years ago. A lot of people are saying now Aubrey is the best kicker in the NFL. Look what he did. Are we taking that at face value? Do we think that that should be in consideration, or is it just theatrics?
Well, I mean, he had a great season last year, so we'll start there. But you do have to stack years. Tucker's done that. He's been the best kicker in the NFL since he's been out of college, so however long that is now. He's consistent. He's good. He's got the leg, but Aubrey's legit too. I mean, I got to see him up close last year, and so. But that video that they posted, it seemed like he wasn't even really trying either. Like there was a pretty fluid kick, and the ball just flew for him. So I don't know, pretty cool to see. Obviously, you're watching preseason football, so you can't really take too much value in what's happening. But I mean, a kick's a kick.
Yeah, leg power plays.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. So sticking, what kind of record do you think that, just for fun again with the Dallas Cowboys, what kind of record are we going to throw out there as far as the Dallas Cowboys this year? We've seen a lot of people. I've seen a few people, and I'm thinking they're insane. They're putting the Cowboys 5 wins, 6 wins, 7 wins. Are they primed to win their division again? Are they going to win the East? It seems, Philadelphia fan here. I don't know.
It's them or the Eagles. I mean, the Giants are not going to do anything. Washington, their quarterback's going to get hurt by week 3 because he likes to run. He doesn't protect himself. So,
are you seeing too? And I hate to interrupt you with this. Are you seeing another RG3 thing happening here with Jaden Daniels?
it could be. You never know. I mean, I think the coaching there right now is better than it was then. So, I mean, it comes down to the player. Is he going to protect himself when he's running the ball? Is he going to get down? Is he going to get out of bounds? Or is he just going to be reckless?
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
So,
obviously nothing that he's used to in college. He threw for 40 touchdowns, and he ran for 10 more. So not bad for Daniels, which is why he went number 2 overall. Maybe he should have went number 1 overall.
no shot. Caleb ran for 21 the last 2 years. Everybody's talking about Jaden Daniels and his rushing ability. It's not about how fast you run or how much you run. It's about when you run. That makes the most difference. Running on 1st and 10 compared to running on, 3rd and 12 could be the difference between winning a football game. So we'll see what happens. But, I mean, probably the Eagles division getting back on track. If that offensive line can hold this year, we'll see what happens there. But, I mean, they got all the weapons in the world. I mean, Saquon's going to go off. I don't like Hurts, but, I mean, Dallas don't have the firepower, I don't think, other than Dak and CeeDee.
Yeah. And you mentioned before, it's like they've always had a running game. They got rid of Zeke. Now they bring Zeke back. It almost looks like a panic. Maybe that's why CeeDee is asking for more money right now. They know that they don't have the running game. Maybe they're not going to finish double-digit wins. Give me the money now, or put me on a team that's thinking long-term.
Yeah, I definitely think the Cowboys, the offseason was a scare, right? People talk about they didn't make any moves, and then the whole 5, 6, 7 win talks came. I think they drafted pretty well. You got a couple of rookies that'll step in. They picked up Kendricks, who fills a huge spot in that linebacker room. And then you allow, Marquise Bell to get back to safety, and Donovan Wilson to get back to safety as well. So you got Malik Hooker back there too. So there's pieces there. Diggs gets healthy. Bland in his 2nd year. So as bad as the offseason was it really that bad? Who knows? But yeah, I mean, it's Philly, it's Dallas, it's one of the two. Washington and New York are a mess and have been for years. So, but the NFC East, this is the fun thing, is that they haven't had a repeating division winner since like 2004 or 5 or something like that. So Dallas won it this past season, so you have to anticipate the Philadelphia Eagles to come in and take it this year.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Speaking of theatrics that I mentioned before, is how are you guys feeling about Pat Mahomes and the behind the back pass to Travis Kelce. Did you guys happen to watch that?
Yeah, we saw it.
Yeah,
How do you
yeah.
not see it, right? I mean, everybody is
Yeah.
just salivating over Patrick Mahomes and three-peat and
And
all this.
coincidentally, that came on the heels of Tyreek Hill comparing Caleb Williams to Mahomes. So I think Mahomes might have had that in the back of his mind when he said, "Nah, not so fast."
Yeah.
You know, let me just throw this in there real quick. You know, so
I'm
Do you
sure
think he's going to try to do something like that in regular season?
I'm sure you
oh
see it.
yeah,
Some wrinkle, maybe not the same way. They love that little shovel pass that they run with Kelsey. I mean, I don't know. You can't count Mahomes out at this point. As much love and talk as he gets, and he's always the name that people bring up. He's backed it up for years, so there's no argument there. But he's a magician. There's always something new for him to try and do, and he finds ways to do it.
Yeah, for sure. He's fun to watch. So speaking of the Kansas City Chiefs, Chicago Bears, Thursday night football. Do you put much into it, Dan, as far as the preseason outside of watching a few key people out there? Like you mentioned before, you've got a lot of brand new pieces in there. You got Odunze, you've got Keenan Allen. He looks like he might have come into camp a little bit overweight. You got a new
no.
running back. You got all these different new pieces. Are you putting much into it, or are you saying, hey, you know what? Let's put a good show. You're going to watch the game. I want to see how we kind of rank up against Kansas City.
Well, no starters are playing against Kansas City for either side, I don't think. So I know the Bears. They came out today and said only a few starters are playing. I know Caleb's not one of them. He got more work in this past weekend than they expected. So don't expect to see DJ, Keenan, or Caleb. You might see Rome, um, but even that's subject to change. The defense, I wouldn't expect to see most of those guys. So like this Thursday game, it's not going to see much except the depth, which the Bears, backup second and third string has been dominating the last couple of weeks. They haven't given up a touchdown since the first half in the Hall of Fame game against the Texans. So it's more so just seeing the depth, making sure everybody knows what they're doing. Like last week, watching Tyson Bagent, him and Pettis having their own signal to do an audible on their own. I mean, when you got your backup team with their own signals and audibles, it's pretty special that the Bears have more than one quarterback that could be decent. So it's a weird world we're living in right now.
And Gilly, so we're talking about, maybe Travis Kelce. I'm going to guess he's not your favorite Kelce. It's probably the other one. Having that kind of maybe impartial thought process on Jason Kelce, and I'll be honest with you, I really like Jason Kelce. I thought he was a class act guy. What are your thoughts about maybe Travis Kelce and going to this, graduation, slamming a beer on stage? Do you have the same kind of love for Travis as you do for Jason?
Yeah. I mean, I respect both of them. I think obviously both great on the field, but I think the podcast that they started together kind of give you a little insight of their outside of football life, and been fun to see that. And I think Kelsey's fire on the field for me. I've always kind of been a more fiery person, so I think just seeing Kelsey very emotional, and he likes to get after it. He gets up on Sunday. So yeah, no, I mean, as annoying as it is to see the Chiefs win the Super Bowl and beat the Eagles 2 years ago or whatever it was now, and yeah, that was tough. But respect to them, great football players, and so yeah, I'm a fan of both.
How are you feeling about the offensive line this year?
Definitely some holes to fill, right? We got a lot of people that need to step up in key places. So we'll see what happens there. I think it'll be okay. You got a lot of it really relies on the O-line, right? You got Saquon, you got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard. I mean, they're all there. You got Hurts, who's serviceable, no matter what you think he's top 10 or he's mid-teens, he's still a serviceable NFL quarterback. So he's got weapons, he's got talent around him. Hopefully the O-line can give him time to make that work. But everything I've seen from camp so far is it looks good, and a lot of the places that need to be filled are getting filled up.
So if you're running the team and you had the option to either keep Saquon or keep DeAndre Swift, would you have made the same change that the Eagles did?
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, Swift was awesome for us. He did what he needed to do, but you can't say no to Saquon Barkley, especially when you put him on a good team. And he's been in the disaster Giants franchise for too many years, getting hurt every other year, and so people were starting to get tired of the whole Saquon story. And so maybe this is a real rejuvenating chance for him, right? Get on a good team. He's gonna go for like too many touchdowns because he's gonna get the ball in short yard distances, and man, he's just explosive in general. So yeah, I'm excited for him. You can't. I mean, I think anybody. I think the Bears. I think Bears got Dan over there. He's wishing he had Saquon versus DeAndre Swift. No knock to DeAndre Swift, but he's talking about one of the best running backs in the league for the past 10 years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was all about it. I just wanted the Bears to make a big splash. But then they got Swift, and then they also traded for Keenan. They signed Gerald Everett. So then they drafted Rome. They drafted Caleb. So it's like, can I be upset? Not really. So we're saving what, $30 million, $15-20 million getting Swift over Saquon. So it's like, okay, sure. I mean, yeah, the explosiveness of Saquon and short yardage, he's going to be a lot better. I don't see Eagles doing the tush push as much this year. Try and keep Jalen upright all year because he got dinged up last year and their offense went with him.
Yeah, very
right?
clear.
Like, hurt his knee. Okay, maybe let's not do this anymore. Hence why Kansas City doesn't do it. Right? I mean, Mahomes hurt his knee doing the tush push one time or a quarterback sneak. They haven't done it since. Now, Hurts got hurt last year doing the tush push or just doing whatever the case might be. And the team derailed after that. I mean, having Matt Patricia on your defensive staff probably didn't help things at all. So the defense should get back on track, you would think, to an extent, because I know they lost some key guys too. So, I mean, we'll see. But yeah, Saquon himself should be the difference between Philly and Dallas. 2 games.
You put that really well, and that's not even biased. I 100% agree with that statement.
Are we losing Jeff?
Of course you do.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's
the one
pretty
thing
accurate.
that I will give to Philly, and I don't know how they do it, and I don't know how other teams allowed this to continue to happen. Philadelphia always seems to have a great draft. And now one of the things that people were picking apart on the defense last year was their defensive backs. So what does Philadelphia do? They go out and they get Quinyon Mitchell with the 22nd pick. I had him at 14. And then they get Cooper DeJean at number 40. I had him at 22. So is the defensive backfield complete? Are you worried about 10-2 anymore and then falling off the map at the end of the season, or are these guys it?
I don't know, man. It's another year, right? Another year of getting older, and so you don't know. Bradbury is definitely not what he was at his peak career, and pretty sure they got Isaiah Rodgers. I don't know if you mentioned that or not, at the cornerback position. So he's probably going to end up being on the other side of Slay, and you just hope that Slay is what he's labeled as. But like I said, it's another year. He's old, and it's been rough. I mean, like, I don't know the last time the Eagles have had a good defensive back set as a full piece. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it as they're not necessarily in the best division to have rookie, a young secondary. When you got CeeDee Lamb, McLaurin, Dotson, Malik Neighbors. I mean,
Yeah.
who's going to give Neighbors the ball? But still, right? Like, they got some tough guys to cover in that division. Regardless of what you think about the quarterbacks throwing the ball. I mean, you still got to, stick to these guys. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Eagles they probably got a middle of the pack schedule this year. So as long as the offense can do what they're capable of, keep the defense off the field, so to speak, kind of reverse of what a lot of teams try and do, like Pittsburgh, where they just, let's keep our defense on the field and not expose our offense too much. Eagles will be fine.
That strength of schedule that you mentioned, they're tied for 21st for most difficult schedule. So they've got an easy one. They're right there with the Colts and the Titans for strength of schedule. So, wow.
Losing that 10-2 record got him an extra 3 or 4 wins this year, collapsing last year, right?
Yeah.
Because always they'd have a first place record, schedule like the Cowboys do.
Right.
So I want to touch on Caleb Williams a little bit, and I've been harsh on Caleb. If you've listened to any of my stuff before, I'm not a fan. I'm very skeptical, to say the least. Dan, would you say that you're realistic about Caleb Williams, or are you super hyped on him, or what is your expectations? Like, what's going to be an acceptable year for Caleb Williams this year and the Bears?
Based on what I've seen at camp and what I've seen limited in the preseason, I think it's fair not to treat him like a rookie. Like I don't think what CJ did last year is, out of reach. Honestly, I think that should be his floor. What interceptions, we'll see. I mean, somehow Stroud only threw 5 last year, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I mean, I could see Caleb going for 30 and 12. I mean, Waldron likes to throw the ball. So, and he's got the weapons to throw too. And I think the defense is going to get the turnovers to keep giving him the ball. They're getting your shapes up nicely. So really going to come down to the back half of the season when the Bears start playing the division games. They don't play a division game till week 10, week 11, somewhere in that range. Then they got, 6 in the last 8 weeks or whatever it is. So it's the schedule's backloaded, so I mean, everything I've seen so far is Caleb's growth has been pretty linear since the beginning of camp to where he is now. If you look at the game Saturday, yes, there's some backups, but you struggle 3 series, 3 and outs, and then you start figuring out and you put points on the board your last 2 drives. The way he's able to avoid pressure while staying in the pocket, not just bailing out like Mitch Trubisky always did, or Justin Fields always did, or Lamar Jackson still does, or Jaden Daniels has been doing all summer. Like, Caleb wants to throw, but if you take that away and you give him an opening, he's going to take it too. So I mean, we'll see. I'm trying not to get out over my skis, being a lifelong Bears fan. I've been down that road before because I was all in on Fields, but Caleb looks like he actually knows how to play the quarterback position. So I'm pretty excited. I mean, I think there's a chance he becomes the Bears' first quarterback in franchise history to throw for 4,000 yards in a season.
I'm still blown away by that stat too. I can't believe.
Yeah, me too. Or 30 touchdowns in one season. Like, yeah. I don't. Like,
Jay Cutler, Jim McMahon, come on,
someone.
Yeah, anybody. I mean, it's ridiculous.
No, but I agree with Dan. I think I wasn't a big fan of the way they presented him on the media throughout his draft process, and before that, I did not like it by any means. So I was kind of like, all right, this dude's gonna act like that and then come in and flop in the NFL. But he got pieces around him. I mean, he has one of the best receivers in the league in Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, 2 guys that are studs, and then Rome was supposed to be another stud. So DeAndre Swift's a decent back. He was with Philly last year and did well. So I think he has pieces to do it. Defense is there, like Dan said. And my unbiased media, right? So, he might have a little bit of biased media watching his Twitter, his Bears Twitter or whatnot, but I, by no means am a Bears fan. I've seen the same thing. A very good camp. He's just gotten better throughout camp. And so there's no denying his comfortability in a pocket, and he knows how to feel it out and where to be and how to get out of a pocket. So that's important in NFL. I think a lot of people don't think about often like, okay, yeah, how far can you throw it? Are you accurate? But no, how good's your pocket presence? Do you know like where to be, how to get out of a pocket, where to escape, when to escape? And I think he has. That's one of the things he has that's intangible. So I think he's primed for a good rookie year. It's crazy to say better than Stroud because Stroud was unbelievable, but I guess the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's already better than Jordan Love.
Yeah, I mean, the division's up for grabs at that rate.
Jordan Love only had 5 good games last year. One of them was week 1 against the Bears when they're missing half their defense.
Yeah, and it's amazing that a lot of people put him in the top 10 for quarterbacks this year.
Yeah, no.
Jordan Love.
I don't see it. I mean, He's efficient, sure.
Yeah.
The only way that I see,
he only had 300-yard games last year.
yeah, the only way that I see it is if you're going to give him credit for having crappy wide receivers, because Christian Watson was hurt, Daubs, Reed. I mean, their whole wide receiver room has maybe
a bunch of guys.
Unproven.
Yeah, it's a bunch of Jags, right? But
just a guy.
They're all like 3 years or less experience. Bunch of no names.
I think there's a lot of value. They're putting a lot of value in maybe another year in the system, understanding the offense, and then allowing these young receivers to be in the same situation, growing in the system, growing with each other. So they ended it hot. Well, I say that they ended it hot, blowing up the Cowboys' playoff chances, and then they didn't look too good. Or I guess they were actually beating the Niners the following week by pretty handily. So he ended the season.
Yeah, they choked.
Yeah, end of the season looking good outside of choking, but maybe that's where these rankings come in. But yeah, it's Packers Bears for that division.
It's Matt LaFleur. I mean, he's up there with Shanahan, but he's stuck in Wisconsin, so nobody talks about him. But he's every bit as good as Shanahan when it comes to calling plays and working with quarterbacks, etc. I mean, that's the only thing I envy about the Packers is LaFleur. But at the same time, what's he done in the playoffs? He's fallen on his face. So, I mean, he choked this year. When he had Rodgers, he would just basically get shut out against San Francisco. I mean, put up 3 points at home. Can't do that. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, and then you got the Lions. They should be good again. So we'll see what happens.
I totally forgot about the Lions. That's a good point.
Everybody does.
I was just going to ask you, do you see the Lions at number 3 then? Because you said it was between the Packers and the Bears.
That's a crazy statement by me right there, for sure. Detroit's probably the best team in that division, and I totally forgot about them because it's Detroit, I guess.
So it'll be interesting.
That should be a fun division, and I'm in Minnesota. I'm a Ravens fan. I live in Minnesota, so most of my family are Vikings fans, which we'll get into their disappointing preseason so far here. But no quarterback controversy in Chicago, which was probably smart that they got rid of Fields before they brought in Williams. So now
that was decided early, October.
And so they got rid of Fields, and now he's in Pittsburgh. And if you guys saw, they left Pittsburgh, left Justin Fields and Russell Wilson in for that entire game that they just played over the last weekend. And they put up a total 3 points in that game. Fields was decent, 11 for 17, 92 yards, no touchdowns, no picks, had 8 runs for 42 yards. Russell Wilson, 8 of 10, 47 yards. Again, no touchdowns, no picks. Who's it going to be?
It'll be Russ.
I think it's whoever plays worse the week before, right?
I could go back and forth every game.
I see it doing that.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean,
gosh, yeah, I don't know.
That offense is a mess. Warren's hurt. Offensive line is not good at all. So that might give the lean towards Fields because he's a little more mobile at this point in his career. I mean, I don't see how Russ's personality is going to mesh with Tomlin. Like, that just always seemed like a weird fit to me from the jump. So,
yeah. And they're more probably of a running game than they are a passing game now. They got Najee Harris. They got Warren. You might as well hand the ball off. Pat Freiermuth, who knows what he's going to do. But yeah, so you're thinking maybe start off with Russell. Maybe Fields takes over once he craps the bed.
Yeah, because well, you can look at an NFL perspective or fantasy perspective.
Just NFL perspective, I guess. Yeah.
Right. Like, you probably go with Russ because he can throw the ball. Pickens can get open. But if they double Pickens, who's he throwing to?
Yeah.
They haven't been using Najee out of the backfield. Warren's banged up, which was, third downs is his role. Freiermuth should be more involved, but, I mean, look what the offensive coordinator is. He didn't do any favors for Kyle Pitts, right? So he doesn't take favorites when it comes to tight ends. He always has 2, even back when he was in Tennessee. So it's a mess. So I'm not sure it really matters.
I'm glad to hear.
I think that's just This
as a
is
Ravens
finally,
fan, because I look at it and I go, "Oh God, the Steelers look like
yeah,
crap."
like I mean, I think they've looked like crap the last 10 years, even when they had Ben, because I thought he was garbage too. But the defense is so strong. What does the offense really have to do?
Yeah,
Right? So, I mean, I think this is the first year Tomlin doesn't get the 500.
he doesn't get
I
to
think
win
you're
the
right.
season. I think the offensive staff in Pittsburgh is sitting there having the same conversation we're having. Like, who the hell do we start? It's
Everywhere.
yeah,
Who's our wide receiver 2 and 3? Kelvin Austin?
yeah.
Oof.
It's definitely not good for Pittsburgh. To your point, he hasn't had his losing season in his career, and now's the time for it to happen. If you're a Ravens fan, now you gotta strike while the iron's hot, and
Yeah,
it
I
doesn't
can see
look it
6
doesn't look
wins,
good.
maybe 7.
Yeah,
I I really think 6, but since it's Tomlin, I'll say 7.
he likes to win. He does do that.
Yeah, yeah, he'll find a way. He'll play both quarterbacks each game.
Yeah, that's what
As
I
a
said.
Bears fan, that's fine. Let Fields get 50% of the snaps. Get us that, 4th round pick next year. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, sticking in the, let's go back to the NFC North and we'll talk about a little bit more quarterback controversy. How about the Vikings? Not really a quarterback controversy anymore now. JJ McCarthy is out for the year with torn meniscus that they had to fix in his knee. Now you've got Sam Darnold. And my prediction in the beginning of the year before McCarthy had gotten hurt was that Sam Darnold was going to take over. He was going to be the QB1. They would probably go 1-4, hit their bye week in week 6, and then you can usher in the JJ McCarthy era. That's not going to be an option anymore.
No.
If you're running the Vikings right now, what are you doing? Are you saying, hey, we're content with Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall, and they just picked up Matt Corral? Or are we looking at different free agents or maybe a trade for a decent backup?
You want to hear a fun one?
Yeah.
You send Jordan Addison over to Dallas, and you get Brandon Cooks and Trey Lance. And you start Trey Lance, right? I mean, it's a number. What was he? He was top 3 draft pick. Was he 1 or 2? I don't know. I forget. It's been so long.
3.
3 since he
Yeah,
hasn't
San
played.
Francisco paid a boatload for him just to cut him after a year.
Yeah. So I mean, there's been a lot of optimism about him in Dallas. Kind of a joke, but I mean, you get a veteran receiver and you get a quarterback who has potential, I guess, more so than the guys that are in the room. There's still like an unproven question mark around Trey Lance right now. There's still he's gonna get his shot again. It's just a matter of when and where. So maybe I mean Minnesota they got nothing going for them. They're not playing for a title. Why not take a chance?
Yeah, I mean, I was with you, Jeff. I mean, I thought, yeah, first 4 weeks it'd be Darnold, get the bye, McCarthy coming out of it, give him a little bit extra time, to learn from Kevin O'Connell and go from there, right? Because he's great with quarterbacks, great with offense, etc. Right? So now it's Nick Mullins and JJ. They looked pretty good towards the end of last season. So maybe you say, JJ, who do you prefer? And that's what you go with, because Darnold's looked like complete trash this preseason. I mean, he has not looked good at all. I haven't heard too much good about camp. You know better than I would. You're out there.
Well, the funny thing is, being in Minnesota, we've got something called K-Fan on the radio.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who your quarterback is at that point. He's the next best thing. It happened with Keen. God, can't remember what his name was last year. Kellen Mond. There you go.
Yeah.
Kellen Mond. One guy said, well, he's giving me signs that he looks like the next Patrick Mahomes. I kid you not. And then a couple of weeks later, they ship him off to Cleveland, and then Cleveland says we don't want him, and who knows where Kellen Mond is right now. But every year it's almost like Dallas. Every year is the Vikings year. Doesn't even matter how bad they are. But so you've got Sam Darnold on a 1-year contract. You're going to get JJ back next year. So do you afford to go out and get a free agent who's a little bit older, like a Ryan Tannehill? Or it's funny because I actually had a couple of younger quarterbacks, including Kenny Pickett, Mac Jones, Sam Howell, a couple of guys. Do you bring in a younger guy? And if JJ doesn't come back as well? Or do you just put the bank on next year?
I like the Tannehill idea.
Win
He's a
7
smart
games.
quarterback. JJ learned a whole lot from Tannehill, right? How to take care of a number one receiver. Tannehill had A.J. Brown before A.J. Brown had Jalen Hurts, and he made him what he is, right? So, or helped him showcase it at least. Um, and Tannehill, he knows he's at the point of his career where he's not really a starter. So I think he'd come in at, a vet deal and start this season, right? Just cut bait on Darnold because what's the point? Or let him start through the bye because he's, got in the offense, bring in Tannehill. That way he can get going after the bye, right? Build him up, etc. As a Bears fan, I say just start, Darnold all year. Because our defense will eat that up. So, but I don't think the Vikings are going to do anything because I don't think they had any real expectations on this season to begin with. Um, they're still trying to rebuild that defense, losing Daniil Hunter, etc. I mean, I know they added some pieces this offseason. Addison, he could still get suspended, possibly. Who knows? They were pretty much prepared to start JJ for 10, 12 games this year, knowing that it could be a rebuild season. So I think they'll just stick with Darnold and Mullins realistically.
Yeah, I don't think it's
That
worth
could
going.
just be the new plan.
Yeah, I think at this point, if you're sold on JJ to being your guy in the future, I don't think it's worth spending anything significant or sending anything anywhere significant. So if that's what they see, and I think he started to look good towards the end of his camp prior to, or better, I say he was trending upwards throughout camp prior to his injury. So maybe some optimism there with him. So yeah, not worth spending anything.
Yeah. Tom Brady said he's keeping himself in shape.
Sure, JJ wouldn't mind.
Right?
Yeah.
You could use that in the same way. Back in the day when the Vikings drafted Christian Ponder, who was a very smart kid, scored very well on the Wonderlic test, and that was at the same time that Indianapolis was getting rid of Peyton Manning, and nobody wanted to take a chance on him because of his neck. I thought, geez, why don't you just give Peyton Manning a 1 or 2 year contract and he can teach Christian Ponder? So kind of the same thing. You bring in Tannehill for a younger guy. Who knows if that would have worked before, but you never know. So it's fun to think about. The Vikings, though, kind of mentioned it before with their terrible preseason. They had, obviously, J.J. McCarthy. You got Jordan Addison, who got a DUI. Is he going to be suspended this year? And at what point in time and how many games? Maybe 4 games. And that was after they drafted a cornerback in the 4th round. And he, unfortunately, was in a car accident. He was hit by a drunk driver, and he passed away. And then you've got T.J. Hawkinson, who's out for what? 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I mean, how long is that going to go? So I think it's over in Minnesota, Dan.
Disaster.
Yeah, it's already imploded on them. So I think it really does come down to the Lions, Packers, and Bears. And that's about it.
And I can see all 3 making the playoffs this year.
Whoa. All 3.
After
that leaves a wild card spot for Dallas or honestly, I think it's only San Francisco in the West.
The South's bad.
Yeah, just Atlanta there. Eagles in, the East. I could see the Cowboys missing out, but even if they don't, there's 3 wild card spots. You got to give them to somebody.
That's true.
Right? So, sure, Detroit, San Francisco, Philly, and Atlanta get the divisions, and then find me 3 wild cards.
Not the craziest statement now that you break it down.
I mean, Bears, Packers, and Cowboys.
I'm going to say watch out for Seattle this year. And that might sound crazy. I think they really underperformed last year. They've got 3 great wide receivers there. They've got Walker in the backfield. They've got a brand new head coach who knows defense. I like Mike Macdonald. And personally, I thought that if the Ravens knew that they were going to lose Macdonald, I would have rather got rid of Harbaugh and kept Macdonald because he's just that. I like his defensive dynamic. But I'm hoping for Seattle to actually do something good this year.
It wouldn't surprise me one way or another.
Yeah.
Then the Rams, does Stafford stay healthy another year?
No.
Do Kupp and Puka stay healthy? Kyron stay healthy? So it's, I think it's really the Rams defense that's going to hold them back this year, losing Donald and not really replacing them. So, I mean, yeah, it's hyperbole, but I mean, Lions, Bears, and Packers could all come out of that division.
It's not
I mean,
very
just
bad.
like what the AFC North last year had 3 teams, right? So almost had 4. If Burrow didn't get hurt, who knows what would have happened, right? So,
And hell, they
I
still
mean, I could
finished with
see it.
9 wins.
Yeah, every team was over 500 in the AFC North.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the Vikings have a chance to do that this year, but Bears, Vikings, Lions. I mean, the South is Atlanta or Tampa. So, we'll see.
Well, just touching on the Vikings, they did sign Stephon Gilmore. He's going to be 34 in September. They're pairing him up with 35-year-old Harrison Smith in the backfield. I think people are going to be passing on them all game. And that's Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah.
He's a big name, right? But this is his 4th team in 4 years. I think he's a little more than past his prime, but they paid him $10 million. Maybe that's the Vikings figuring, well, the offense is shot. We might as well just go on defense.
Well, the Vikings, they blitz 90% of the time anyways, so with Brian Flores calling the shots. So they're going to bring the house more times than not. So it's either get to the quarterback or hope those old guys hold up long enough to get to the quarterback, right? So we'll see.
Old is a good word for that. Stephon got old, and he got old quick.
Yes, I mean, covering DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Christian Watson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams,
Good luck.
Keenan Allen in the slot,
I don't think he could cover
Jaden Reed in the slot. Especially all these quarterbacks can get rid of the ball quick. So even if they bring the house, like what are they going to do? And they all have running backs that can catch the ball and do something with it on top of it. So it'll be interesting how bad it gets in Minnesota.
We'll see how many games Stephon even plays, to be honest to you. He's old, and week-to-week basis is rough for him to get up on Sunday, so we'll see what that looks like.
Speaking of other big-name defensive acquisitions, you mentioned Atlanta before. They signed safety Justin Simmons, and now we find out they've also got former Raven Matthew Judon. So they're really pushing on defense. And at first, I'm looking at this division, and you said Tampa and Atlanta. I like the Saints, not by a lot, 9-10 wins, maybe wins that division again. But is Atlanta pushing for that division championship, Gilly?
Yeah, I'm high on it. I think, look, you got Kirk Cousins at the quarterback position, and so definitely some question marks with he's up and down, but I think he's better than what they've had in the past couple of years. And there's talent in there. You got Bijan, you got Kyle Pitts, who's still primed to make his breakout in the NFL, and Drake London, who is their number 1. So it's a similar situation in Atlanta as it is Chicago. Just you got an older quarterback, coming in taking the starting role with talent around him. Defense is I think the defense is a little slept on, and especially not anymore. Now you had these really good positions. You had Simmons and Judon. I mean, 2 guys that are big names in the NFL. So if you were sleeping before, people woke up. But there was pieces before then. So as bad as the NFC South is, I think it's pretty. If you're gonna do it, this is the year, right? Kirk Cousins, probably the best quarterback in the NFC South, in my opinion. You could argue Baker, but I'd see him, more success over time with Kirk and younger weapons, maybe even better weapons in Atlanta than over in Tampa.
Yeah, I don't think it's even close. I think Atlanta runs away with this division. I like Baker in Tampa. I'm not sure what that defense is going to be this year. Carolina, that's going to be something else.
Yeah.
New Orleans, their defense is getting old. I mean, I like Carr more than most, but Kamar's getting up there. He's not very efficient running. Um, I mean, yes, he'll get a lot of dump offs from Derek Carr. I love Olave, but then who's the number two? They don't have a number two. They don't really have a tight end. Their best tight end is their second running back, Taysom Hill. So, I mean, we'll see what happens there. I just think Atlanta and Kirk, from all accounts, is healthy this year. So, Drake London, he makes things happen. I think Pitts gets freed up. Atlanta also signed Mooney,
Yeah.
so don't sleep on him. When he was actually thrown to, he did pretty well in Chicago. So now he's got Kirk that'll stretch the field. Mooney can do the underneath, while Drake does more intermediate stuff or whatever the case might be. And then Bijan is Bijan. Um, I really think it's Atlanta's division. I wouldn't be surprised if they won, 11 games, just basically winning, 4 or 5 division games.
Right.
So
The only thing that I don't like about, and I think you're absolutely right about Atlanta. They've got a lot of good pieces, right? So I'm not a fan of them picking Michael Penix Jr. as they did. Maybe they weren't very
yeah,
confident in Kirk Cousins coming around. I really didn't like that pick. I thought that they needed more defense. I had them actually taking Dallas Turner at that spot in number 8, but they
so
didn't
did
go that
everybody
route.
else.
Yeah. So they had that. And now they've got Judon. So it's like, oh, okay, well, we plugged that hole, right? So if Kirk Cousins isn't ready to go, you got Michael Penix Jr., who maybe, but then you've got Tyler Algier behind Bijan. So if Bijan gets hurt, you still got a guy who, in his rookie year, I think he had over 1,000 yards. So you've got some really good offensive weapons there. And last year they had Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith, who's now in, I think he went to Tampa Bay. Or no, he's in Miami. Sorry.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about Atlanta is their head coaching hire. Raheem Morris has done nothing in his career. He's finished 3rd and 4th with every head coaching position that he's had. 3rd, 4th, 4th, 3rd, fired, done. That's my only concern with Atlanta is the coach.
I think Atlanta's more about the offensive coordinator, who is from that McVay tree, which coincidentally is the same offense that O'Connell runs, that Kirk ran for the last 3 years when his numbers are arguably better than anybody else in the league. I mean, I know it's Kurt, and that's weird to say, but I mean, guy put up almost 15,000 yards in 3 seasons or whatever it was. Like, it's insane. 4 to 5,000 yards every year. High touchdown, low interception. You say what you want about the primetime stuff. Kirk is better than most quarterbacks in the league. So, I mean,
I would put Kirk in the top 10. I think when I actually put together my top 10 list, I think I had him at number 8 overall.
Yeah, it's harder to keep him out of it than to put him in it, right? So
yeah, well, hell, even playing 9 games or whatever he did last year, he's still finished in the top 10 for most things. It's like, holy crap, he still had how many yards? So yeah.
So I think it's a system that Kirk knows back from being in Washington. I mean, I think it'll be fine. So, and again, they added to that defense. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't just draft Dallas Turner instead of having to pay Judon what they paid him, being, 32, 33 years old. So, I mean, they're trying to go all in. They're trying to go for it. I'm sure they paid Justin Simmons way too much money too. So,
yeah.
I mean, but they're in the division where it's every year you need to go for it because every year it's up for grabs. So, I mean, nothing would surprise me, except Penix playing. Because I don't know why you pay Kirk $100 million guaranteed to draft Penix. I mean, Minnesota should just trade for Kirk back, right? So
yeah, right, at a discount.
Yeah, I don't know.
The only other thing that I want to get into yet, and it looks like we've got about 5 minutes to go. Here's the biggest thing, maybe the biggest thing this week: quarterback drama. Las Vegas, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew. They're going with Minshew. How are you guys feeling about that? Let's start with Ryan.
I mean, it's a crazy conversation to have. I think Gardner Minshew is one of those weird guys. He wins ball games. He also loses ball games. So O'Connell's unproven kind of. I don't know. It's like when you put this on the list, I was kind of like lost of words for how much we could really talk about this. But Vegas is another disaster in the NFL right now. So, I mean, I think it's the right call. I think you have to start Minshew. He played well as the backup for Philly, and then he had his time in Jacksonville where he grew his fame. But O'Connell hasn't really proven himself or done anything to stand out or take the spot. I guess that's a good way of putting it. Minshew more so didn't lose the spot, and he just kind of was there, and O'Connell did nothing to take it from him.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was competition.
Yeah.
As soon as they signed Minshew, I figured he was the guy. They paid him $30 million for 3 years. I didn't even know this was a thing in the world of football because I don't pay attention to the Raiders except is Devontae Adams a Jet yet? Right? Like, ultimately, that's what it's going to come down to because Devontae's acting like he's a Jet. The Jets are talking like he's a Jet. So it's when is he going to be a Jet? Right? So.
Well, I suppose when they drop their first 3 or 4 games, then they'll probably bail on Devontae.
I mean, I never really thought Minshew not starting was actually an option. I didn't know, like, why are you going to pay Minshew $30 million if you're just going to start O'Connell anyways?
I guess I always got kind of the feeling that Antonio Pierce did not want to go with Minshew, and even in like press conferences when they were asking him about it, it's like you almost see this look on his face of, Aiden O'Connell's just not the guy, and I really want him to be the guy. I don't want to go with Minshew, but upper management got this guy, and he's playing better, and now we're going to have to go with him type of.
That could be true. That could be true as well.
How bad is Derek Carr for dragging Hopkins to Vegas and then leaving him?
Oh. Yeah.
Disaster.
Doesn't make any sense.
No.
Does that affect how you guys look at Devontae Adams in drafts?
Absolutely.
Not really. Because he's going to get yes, he's not going to be as high, but he's going to get a bunch of targets. And you have to project there's a better than reasonable chance that he actually does get traded to the Jets this year. Where he's back with Aaron, right? So, I mean, in a 16-team league, if he gets back to me, pick 20 or whatever it is in the second round, like, yeah, I probably will take him.
He's probably going to get all the targets, like you said. I mean, the running back is Zaire, and I'm not really a fan, but it's not Josh Jacobs anymore. Obviously, he's in Green Bay.
It's Adams, Bowers, and Myers, right? So, I mean, Minshew, he locks onto one guy, just like he did with Pittman, locked onto him. I mean, he doesn't get the guy touchdowns, but gets him a lot of catches and a lot of yards, right? So, I mean, I don't know. If you can avoid it, I'd avoid it, but 16-team league, you can't be too picky. Go with volume.
There you go. All right. Any closing thoughts, guys, as we're closing in on 60 minutes?
This was awesome, man. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, yeah. Anytime.
Awesome. Hopefully we can do this again. Good luck in your drafts. I know that for Fantasy Turf Wars, I draft on Sunday. Not sure when you guys do, but
I think
good luck.
Yeah,
I hope
25th, whatever, Saturday or Sunday. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like next Thursday.
Hope everything goes good for you. Maybe we'll see you in the championship.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right, guys. Talk soon.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
Yes, sir.